Ah, praise the Lord.
Okay, we're good. Get back in your circle.
You and I have a little cage around. So this is a perfect time for caring for creation. Why do I say that? Well, it's the 800th anniversary of Saint Francis, our founder, composing the beautiful canticle of creation. So, that adds a special zest to beginning this year. And then two, after all, we're Franciscan. We've all seen the St. Francis statues with the birds and the little animals and the wolf. And even though that's maybe not what we're all about exactly, the notion is that everyone knows St. Francis cared for creation. And as Franciscans, it's part of our spirit. So also, Laudato Si, Pope Francis, let's just talk about him for a minute. First and only Pope to take the name of Francis of Assisi. So that adds power to the calling we feel. And then Laudato Si, I think I've told this to this group before, is in the dialect of St. Francis of Assisi. It's not in Latin, like typical encyclicals. It's in his own dialect, and Laudato Si means praise be, and it goes on, praise be to God, in the canticle of creatures. So there's a special connection between our founder, us, and this encyclical, asking every human being on the face of the earth to care for creation, not just us, not just Catholics, everyone. And finally, it is said that shortly before he died, St. Francis said, I have done what is mine to do. Now it is your turn to do what is yours to do. So we take that to heart. Next slide. I have a cat, so I just had to have two. I don't know how many of you can see the cat with their tails intertwined, making a heart. Well, what is ours to do? I think, first of all, as Franciscans in our own fraternities, to think about what can I do to care for creation, what can we, brothers and sisters, the secular Franciscans, what's ours to do with regard to the call to care for creation from our first Pope named for our founder. And then we have, I think, beyond doing things within our fraternity, I think we have a unique opportunity to spread the word within our parishes. As secular Franciscans, we belong to multiple parishes, even multiple dioceses. So we have an opportunity, I think, to inspire our brothers and sisters, whether it be in our parish or in our diocese, to care for creation.
Yeah, there are actually 6 dioceses in our region.
Yeah, so we have a lot of opportunity. And we know our charism is to inspire others and to act ourselves. So next slide. Okay, we have common ground here in the sense that caring for creation, that encyclical of Pope Francis sent out to the entire world. It's not about one side or the other. It's not about divisions. It's not about partisanship. It's about the creation God made us a part of. Because I have heard a priest who was an advisor to Pope Francis. I can't remember his name, it's pretty long. But he's a prophet. And he said God's first revelation to us of himself was his creation. So, you know, if you're able to see the stars at night, you don't even have to do that. The trees, the flowers, the birds singing, all around us is that beauty that is ours to witness as part of God's creation. And we all know as Franciscans, we're called to stewardship, but not just us, all are called to stewardship, because when God created things like the animals and said, what are you gonna call this? You know, and he wound up telling him, you know, this is yours to care for and to manage. So we are called to stewardship. Okay, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is the good news, you know, because when we think about all the things that need to be done in caring for our creation and how much has happened to God's creation, that's not a good thing. We feel a little overwhelmed. But the good news is that we don't have to reinvent the wheel, because the diocese in which our fraternity resides has put forth a plan, not only for the diocese, but help every single parish and every single ministry, like our Francis fraternity has helped us by getting us a blueprint, so we're not lost in how am I gonna do all this. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to present to you today a map, a road map, and you know, it's something that can be adopted by all of us to guide us through the goals of Laudato Si and to help us understand what we can do to make those goals come alive. But one thing, and we're going to put a pin in what I'm about to say, listening is our first step. And we'll hear more about that as we talk about the plan that the Diocese of Lexington put forth and guided each parish and each ministry with this plan so we could make our way through the process. Yes, thanks. So the first steps are to appoint a team. Now, obviously, well, maybe not obviously, I don't know. Each parish, each fraternity has to decide, okay, do we want to just do it in our fraternity? Or do we want to try to inspire our parish with the incentive for our pastor? Do we want to try to inspire our diocese with the consent of the bishop? And you know, that's maybe starting first step in the fraternity, sees how that goes, because you know, sometimes by doing things, you know, I've tried to witness CaringForCreation in my parish. It just so happens I'm both on the team from my fraternity and from my parish. But, you know, I've tried to stand up after Mass or before Mass, where the pastor tells me to do, and say, you know, I'm Sacred Franciscan, we care for creation, try to give them some inspiration and guidance on caring for creation.
Need the next slide, Glenn.
I'm working on it.
I need to see the slide to be sure.
Sorry.
Okay. I think I said everything.
Next one. Keep going.
So the goals of Laudato Si are 7. And the first one is listen to the cry.
Oh, it's there. That did it.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
That little Missy.
I said, you know, there's gotta be buttons on here somewhere.
Yeah, right now. All right, so now we can all see it. Okay, then, Laudato Si goals.
We thought you were just making this up,
Listen to the cry of the poor. First, listen to the cry of the earth, listen to the cry of the poor, ecological economics, which we need to educate ourselves on, it's not as awful as it sounds. And sustainable lifestyles, we can really make a difference there, because we're in control of our own lives. Ecological education, think about the next generation. If we can educate them to care for creation, there's a lifetime of dedication. Ecological spirituality, nothing works without your spiritual element. We have to have it in our prayer lives, in our lives of spiritual growth. And finally, community empowerment. And that's a big part of it. All right, next slide. All right, so what I'm about to do in the next, am I in your way?
Yep.
In the next few slides, I'm gonna go over each of the goals that we're about to see and just give examples. This doesn't mean this is something you have to do, but it gets your mind going as to what the possibilities are. So listen to that's behind that, it says cry of the earth. I know
Can't get rid of it, I'm sorry.
So like the cry of the earth, we're trying to do things that help the earth and not spew things onto it or use its resources unwisely. So for example, now this might not be so much a thing to do at the fraternity, but like in a parish, you could conduct an energy audit. See, you know, like in my parish, they found out so much of the heat in the wintertime and the cooling in the summertime that it was just going out the windows and doors, you know, so that's an easy fix, not even an expensive fix. And I believe Catholic Climate Covenant may actually do energy audits. That's a real good website to know. CatholicClimateCovenant.org. And you know, they give grants, they do energy audits, so that they're a good resource. And we already talked about caulking windows and doors, avoid chemical pesticides and herbicides. You know, how many of us, I've done it myself in the past, use chemicals that are harmful to other creatures on my lawn. And I found out it doesn't have to be that way. There are green products that we can use. And if you use you know, some sort of firm that mows your lawn and so on, some of them are green and they know how to make the grass grow and tend down the weeds in green ways. And just to really demonstrate where we're at on insecticides. How many people in this room have in their lifetime cleaned bugs off their windshield? How many of you have done it lately? I've done what? Not that much. I have, you know, I drove up here to Cincinnati, no bugs, none. That tells us how many insects are already not part of the food chain, and you begin to fool with that fundamental part of the food chain, and my gosh, where does it go from there? What's next? So, and some of the insects are beneficial, you know, so we need to understand how to live with creation and have the type of lives we want without hurting creation. And there's ways to do this. And I'm not going to wait for the slide that it's on. Earth 9/11. Look that up on your phones. Earth 9/11. You can subscribe to their newsletter. It comes to your inbox. So many suggestions on how to live more sustainably, greener, and to cherish the creation that God has made us a part of. Okay, And if you have to replace appliances, as we know, 20 or 30 years, that washer finally goes out. And, replace it with an Energy Star rated appliance, so you know you're not using. It's,
Well, is that Energy Star rating still in effect?
well, it's, last I saw, it's still a thing. I mean,
Okay.
sometimes you can't keep up with some of the more recent changes. But I think it's still a thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and also, your power company will give you a discount. So often, if you buy a new refrigerator, appliance, your power company will give discounts. So the last several, like Louisville Gas and Electric is my power company. And so they've given us like $200 off. So you mail in the receipt to your power company. So it's always worth checking with them. The other thing was, in my office, which is just a small office condo, they came in and offered to do an energy audit. So they did, and they said, well, your fluorescent bulbs, are inefficient and should be replaced. It was really at a good time because I'd been there about 15 years. The ballasts were starting to go out. And so I just replaced them with LED lighting, and those units last about 20 years. So they're low energy, they're people like them better, they don't complain of headaches, with those. And you can even get those like dimmable, but just an example, and I got a rebate from that. So not only did they do the audit, but they told me how to apply for the rebate. And so, yeah, I don't know, that the whole office might have been $700 to replace the lights. It immediately saved in energy cost. But the other thing was, I probably got $250 rebate for just doing it.
And I don't know, I'm not keeping up with tax law or anything, but sometimes if you buy some appliances, at least there has been some sort of effect on your taxes. That's in a good way, not in a bad way.
Right.
Okay, I think I'm ready to go to the next slide. All right, now dealing with the second goal of listening to the cry of the poor. Here's some examples. Of course, some of these things you already do, and that's an important part, by the way, of this action plan that I'm going to be telling you about today. An important part is saying, what do we already do? How can we build on that? And how can we do more? So, okay, like donating to charities that help those in needs, volunteering at charities. I mean, we already do some of those things. Francis Seraph and Lexington and the Catholic Action Center. You can advocate for governmental programs helping those in need. And I know it's really hard to see this, but I can share those with you. It turns out that all the states that are part of our region have a Catholic conference. And by that, I mean the dioceses in a given state, like in my state of Kentucky, are all represented by a group called Catholic Conference, and the executive director that is legislative liaison for all the dioceses. So in my state, for example, his name is Jason Hall, and so he represents the actions that the bishops want him to take with who are advocating, goes and advocates for the positions the bishops are taking with the legislators in Frankfort, Kentucky. But every single state, Ohio has one, Indiana has one, so it's ohiocathconference.org, ccky.org is Kentucky, Indiana, cc.org is Indiana, and then there's Congress.gov if you want to personally go on there and say, contact my representative, contact my senators. And that way, the nice thing about Congress.gov is that it's not a canned letter. You can, write what's in your heart, which I have been talking to legislators and, both at the state and the federal level is much more impactful. So if you want to say to them, please continue whatever programs you feel are caring for creation. This doesn't have to be a partisan thing, it doesn't have to be an unpleasant thing, just advocating from your heart as a person of faith. So, and finally, if you'd rather have the opportunity to use a canned letter, United States Conference of Catholic Bishops.org/action alerts, you can sign up for that. And you can pick on that website, okay, I want to advocate for families, I want to advocate for, I don't know, caring for creation, about abortions, anything that you feel that as a person of faith, you want to advocate. You can get action alerts, you can sign up for them, they'll come to your inbox, and where the bishops are saying, okay, action alert, you need to contact your congressperson about whatever. And so it'll be in the topic areas you select. And when you click on it, it'll take you to a place where you can just send the standardized letter that they've already written. Or you can add to that, they have a place to add what's in your heart as a person thing. So, sometimes I do that. It's just easier to click on that and just go and write, 4 or 5 lines and then send the whole thing.
Once you find the link and figure out where it is, it's very easy to do. I'm on the
Yeah,
app.
yeah,
Thank
it
you.
is. It's
Yeah.
real easy. Okay. Beyond the advocating, partnering with groups that foster food recovery programs for the hungry. Now, I didn't find Glean in Indiana or in Ohio. There's something in Kentucky called gleanky.org. And this is, I think I may have mentioned this before. They go to stores where the stores are about to just throw away food that's still good. And you can pile it in your car and take it to a place where they help people that need food. They also go to orchards, the modern equipment that harvests orchards or, like corn or whatever, leaves a lot there. So they send out teams and they harvest and take it to places where people need help, like Family Care Center or Catholic Action Center or God's Pantry. And so this is very scriptural, because that word glean comes from the Old Testament. And farmers in scriptural times, after they finished harvest, they had to allow poor people to come in and harvest what was left. So it's a wonderful program. And I've got in parentheses start, as if there is no such place in your state, what about starting one? If you go to Glean KY and ask them, why start a Glean in my state? I'm sure they don't. So, but if they already exist, partnering with these groups, if they don't exist, think about starting. Partnering with a group that sponsors urban farming and community gardens. In Lexington, they have a group called Seed Leaf, and they foster starting community gardens in 4 areas of the city. They give them seeds, they give them plants, they show them how to do it. The people in the neighborhood, will hoe the weeds away and water it, and then everybody in that community can go and harvest.
That they're doing that in Alaska and Anchorage, my son's families.
They do that. So anyway, if there's no Seed Leaf in your state or no equivalent organization, think about starting it. If you go to seedleaf.org, in Lexington, I'm sure they would give you pointers for starting at your state. Okay, so, finally partnering or starting with those fostering pantries in food deserts. There are places where people, all they can get is chips and, you know, awful stuff that you don't want to rely on as your sole source of food. And what they do in Lexington, there's the mobile market. It's a partnership between God's Pantry and Kroger. Hey, you have Kroger up in Ohio, you probably have Kroger in Indiana.
We have mobile pantries.
You-
In Cincinnati, we have mobile pantries.
But you do have mobile
Yes.
pantries. That's wonderful. So I mean, you know, people who have no access to veggies or fruits, gives them an opportunity. Okay, finally, next slide. Okay, some other examples for the next goal, which is ecological economics. Some people probably already do this. You buy locally grown and prepared food. Go to the farmer market. I'm sure you have a farmer market. Buy fair trade. I'm gonna need you to go to the next slide before we just do it now. I'll show you. These are fair trade items. It's not just tea and coffee, but it says, you know, equal exchange, fairly traded. What happens is the big companies pay these poor little farmers in, you know, Latin America or in Asia, as little as they can, they're barely eating, you know, they put all this work into growing tea and coffee and chocolate, and then they're not paid just. So what fair trade tries to do is really help those farmers in these third world countries have a living, you know, business income from selling to people that treat them with respect and dignity. So let's go back to the.
10,000 Villages offers that.
Yes, I looked that up because I was trying to think, okay, what places in the Cincinnati area would
There
in
are
my
parishes
town,
that sell,
I'm
there,
sorry.
there are parishes that sell fair trade products at the ranch.
Oh, that's great.
And if yours doesn't, it's good to start within your parish. Ours did it and then we lost the minister for it. And but yeah, it's because somebody wasn't able to step up to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, use green cleaning products. Again, that Earth 9/11 I told you about, lots of information on green cleaning products. Or if you just Google it, you would find all sorts of guidance on that. Use green lawn products, and I've already talked about Earth 9/11. And support businesses with fair employment practices. Now, that might be not so easy to know about without doing some research. Next slide. Okay, next slide. All right, so the next goal of what we're about to see is sustainable lifestyle. And I really think that this is the low hanging fruit, you know, because we control our lives. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, especially when it comes to plastic. Have you ever tried to go to the store and buy something without using plastic? But we can make a start. Reduce the use of single-use plastic, like in the picture. Look, they're using glass, they're using actual plates. So, you know, we don't have to use plastic, we don't have to use plastic utensils, plastic plates, plastic cups, styrofoam. And use I skipped one. Recycle electronics. Now, I don't know if every city has a place to recycle electronics. Lexington does, but beyond that, Staples recycles electronics. I've taken everything to them. Old TVs, you remember the ones with the big tube sticking in the back, you know, so even, you know, I don't, cassettes and stuff.
I think the only thing they don't take are monitors. They won't take a computer monitor. There's something special about that.
Yeah.
And so I don't exactly know where those go, but I took 6 desktop computers to them and they're no hassle. Whereas if you try that, I think at Office Depot, they limit you to like 1 or 2 computers or there's, big limitations, but Staples was no hassle.
There's a place near here that'll take electronics and they'll take your monitor for $1.
For $1,
It's
okay,
only
yeah,
$1.
yeah,
It's okay.
okay, that's great. That's great.
Reminds me of something, it's not in one of my slides. If you Google got sneakers, you can recycle old sneakers.
Yeah,
And they'll, depending on their condition, they'll actually pay you. And not a lot. If they send you a bag, you don't have to pay to send it to them. You go to FedEx with the bag of sneakers. And they take it, you don't have to pay. And then I got an electronic check for $11, which it probably took me half an hour to figure out how to cash my electronic check. But anyway, I thought that was fun. And stop using plastic water bottles. You can buy like what you have. And I have glass ones with the webbing on it so they won't break. I have one in my car, I have one by my workstation at home and then one by my bed. So, the plastic, it takes almost 500 years for it to biodegrade. Can you believe that? And on top of that, you want to hit home. Microplastics and nanoplastics, they're in our bodies. They're already in our bodies because we're drinking them. They're coming down in the rain. They're coming down in the snow. They're in our bloodstreams. So if we would like to live in our own bodies, plastic free, one good way to start is, not to use plastic bottles.
Finding the pools, yeah, that's all over the place. Food we eat,
It's in the food chain
it's in
too.
the food
Yeah.
chain.
And the plastics are in the ocean.
Yep.
The fish are ingesting it and then we eat the fish. So, it's coming at us from all directions. And I'm not trying to scare people. It's not about, it's about inspiring us. And not only do we have a reason to care, to stop as much as we can using plastic and to encourage our companies to get greener packaging, for example. It's not only to care for creation, it's to care for ourselves. We don't know what these nanoplastics are doing.
well, I was just gonna announce, so in the news this week, they announced that a university just developed a yeast that you can put into a diaper that will help it biodegrade. Because a diaper doesn't biodegrade naturally in a landfill for 250 years. So, so that's something to watch out for. I forget what university just developed it, and I'm sure it's not widely available at this point, but they plan on making it widely available. And I thought, well, that was really good environmental news to hear, but it's just announced this week. And I heard it like on the Today Show or something.
And that comes back again to that newsletter, first 9/11, because they will, let you know, because it's hard to keep up with everything that's changing that can help us to care for creation. So having that newsletter, I can say, well, how do I get rid of this responsibly?
Right.
Yeah.
And so all I know is that they said relatively easy, but you have to have the yeast there to pour it onto the soil diaper and then close it up, and then it activates the process.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah,
So is there a place we can get this?
I'm sure it's gonna be widely available,
Yeah.
but I'm sure it's coming.
So,
The process of developing, I guess, natural plastics, from somewhere like
Right.
Japan. So,
My colleague invented a bioplastic called Nodex, named after, and its name's Sal Noda. And it's actually made in a plant in Lexington, Kentucky. They're called Danimers, and the product is called Fade. And you might have seen some advertising about that, the blue straws that they had at the NFL football team games and things. That's made out of Nodex, and Nodex biodegrades in like a few months. And so when he first started it, his talk at P&G, he said, yeah, I made all these forks and knives and plates and stuff out of this stuff. I put it in my dishwasher, I open the door, there's nothing there. Like, anyway, so they're already there, so keep looking for
And
Nodex.
I think that's encouraging that there's some people and corporations who are trying to think of ways, not only to better ways to do it starting, but ways to, how do we get rid of the plastic we have already?
Yeah.
And so, it's,
You can
never hurts to
actually
pray.
buy the diaper stuff already. It's called Hero Technologies.
Hero,
Hero Technologies sells the
Oh my
diaper
gosh.
cleaning.
Google it now.
One of the things that,
And as far as the plastic spoons and forks, there's a lot of people in Alaska that are having their weddings with bamboo. They're doing bamboo plates, bamboo forks, and spoons, and
yeah, one of the things about reducing single-use plastics is it's a lot cheaper, like to not use liquid Tide, but to use powder Gain. It's a lot cheaper.
Okay.
You gotta clean out your washing machine, but it's a lot cheaper, so there's a big personal incentive to use powder Cascade instead of the liquid stuff that comes in in your plastic bottle. Shampoo bar instead of liquid, but that's product, you gotta shop around for that one, but there's also refilleries. Or whatever you wanna call them, where if you take your plastic, they will refill it, there's some in Cincinnati. I've not gone there yet, but they're not called dispensaries, just so that you don't go there thinking you're gonna get some more liquid soap. Because you're gonna walk out with a whole different product.
I heard, glass cleaner, they refill, once you buy it, they refill the bottle.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
it does take effort, but like you said, it's where we can make the biggest difference on our own.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
I use, issue called detergent sheets.
yeah,
Yeah, they
Yeah.
come in a box,
Yeah.
cardboard box this big,
Good.
yeah,
and they
that's
just
me,
put
yeah.
the one sheet in
Yeah.
with your wash.
Yeah.
It disappears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
use,
that's,
I don't use toothpaste in a tube anymore. I get those little bottles. Bottles are metal, one or the other, and have toothpaste tablets. And that way, there's, it's either glass or metal in the container. You don't have to figure out, what am I gonna do with this toothpaste tube? So, there's a lot of
That's a good idea.
strategies, a lot of strategies. So we talked about a lot of this already. And, maybe your parish already recycles. I know in my parish, they sort of did, but there was no signs, saying, here's the recycle, please recycle. I think they could do a lot better educating people and making it obvious. So, that's another place where, if the pastor's on board with it, that we can start to make a difference in a bigger, not just in our lives or in our fraternity's lives, but in our parish. Okay, next. All right, ecological education, this one's really dear to my heart, and as yet, we don't have much going on, at least in my area. And that is that the next generation are the ones, that are really gonna carry this forward. If we start kids caring for creation, that's a lifetime caring for creation. So that's why I think it's really important, but I kind of jumped ahead there. You can host an ecological speaker at your parish, and get people thinking. Because a lot of people just, they're not aware of it, and I think they're ready to help out. If they are expired and, get some information. And including caring for creation in your parish school, science and religion curriculum. And I did some Google searches for this. I think the Catholic Climate Covenant has something for high school, but not so much the younger kids. And I had to go all the way to the United Kingdom. That's what this is down here. It's catholiceducation.org.uk. News/free resources for schools on redundancy. So I sent that to the guy who's organizing Care for Creation in our diocese. I said, if UK can do it, obviously there's going to be differences, but maybe you can adapt it. So I don't know. I'm just hoping that we can get that even for the little kids. You know how inspired they get so excited.
What was a middle schooler that launched the campaign through a science program to get rid of styrofoam cups at McDonald's, So, I think it's a mistake to wait till high school.
I think kids love to be inspired and to feel like they're able to make a difference. It's really important to them. So anyways, also you could sponsor a student art exhibit on Caring for Creation, because that gets it started, so anyway, next slide. This is examples of how to promote the goal of ecological spirituality. And here, Catholic Climate Covenant is a big resource. So, if you could ask your pastor and get his permission to include Care for Creation intentions in the prayer of the faithful at Mass. And again, a resource here, Catholic Climate Covenant, encourage the pastor to include it in his homily, especially during what's called the season of creation, which is from September 1 to October 4, St. Francis's feast day. So, just to get people thinking about it. Post an animal blessing of St. Francis. I know the first one we ever did in our parish, it was still the pandemic. So people Father Dan was out there blessing the pets as their human drove by in the car. Yeah, that was our first one. So, that's always nice. The kids love bringing the pets and having them blessed. Okay, so some people create an outdoor prayer garden. That takes some resources, so, you have to decide whether that's where you want to place your resources. And at the bottom, I've got the Catholic Climate Covenant, so that's your resource. Next slide. Okay, examples of encouraging community empowerment. So the first community you want to empower is your own fraternity. So form a Care for Creation team. It doesn't have to be a big team. We have about, 15 people in our fraternity, so we have 3 people on the team. And inspire your parish to start a Care for Creation team with the pastor's consent. Hey, see if your bishop wants to have one of the diocesan. And then organize ecological events during the season of creation, again, September 1 to October 4. And inspire your parish to start a peace and justice social action committee. And this brings in both listening to the choir, the poor, and the choir. So we've started one of those committees at night. Okay. So how do we decide which actions to take? One way, I'm going to use your fraternity as an example. We had a listening session. We all came together, we had a note taker, we had a facilitator, and said, okay, let's just throw ideas out there, what do you think we ought to do? No dumb ideas, no shaming anybody for their suggestions, take all the ideas down. And then vote on the actions that you're gonna take. And then, if you decide to do this, and this is what we're doing in my diocese, so our fraternity is doing this. We're coming toward the end of our first year of an action plan. So we need, we're gonna have a Zoom with, the head of, the coordinator for the, action plans throughout the diocese. And I think we'll probably need to submit to the diocese our second year's plans, and our assessment of how we did in the first year. And then he always encourages us, not only, we send it to the bishop. Of course, we all know Bishop John, he's a Franciscan too, so I think that may be one of the reasons he's wanting to lead us on this. Did I mention our plans at the diocese were written up in the Vatican News? So, anyway, they encourage us also to upload it to the Catholic Covenant. And I think that way, they can keep track of what's going on all throughout the nation. And, as part of your listening session, you inventory, what are we already doing? And as when we looked at those prior slides, we knew you were already doing some of these things. So, be happy that you already started and just build. To build on current practices, add new practices. And then, like there's some things that didn't work. That doesn't mean we take them out of the next year's plan, but we see, okay, is there a way to fix this? Is there another way to go about this, or is this just out of reach? And then expand your successes. Like one of the things we did, partially, not only to change people's habits, but to inspire, to make them think. We got up at 5 of our parishes and we witnessed, the secular Franciscan, we care about creation. Part of our action plan is to use reusable shopping bags. I'll be in the gathering area after mass, handing out free reusable bags. We had our little logo on it and everything. And we also put tip sheets in there, and tell them, okay, here's some tips on how to care for creation. And it's not only that those people hopefully will use those instead of plastic bags when they go shopping, but also just get them started to thinking about it. Okay, next slide. So we talked about some of this already. I think I jumped ahead. I do want to talk about that second item, seek grants. Catholic, and this surprised me, I didn't have any idea they did this. Catholic Extension Service is granting a total of $100,000 to parish initiatives to care for creation in Appalachia. Can you imagine $100,000 to those 4 parishes out there? And believe me, they struggle. They are consider big ideas. Nothing's off the table. The Newman Center at the University of Kentucky. I'm so proud of them. They're going geothermal. I don't know exactly. It's some way that you pipe into the earth. The earth is constantly 55 degrees, no matter what the ambient air temperature is. So they pipe that. I don't know how far they have to go down. They pipe that into the building, and then you don't have to cool the building, but in the wintertime, you only have to heat it, a much less amount than you would otherwise. They also are putting on solar panels. No step is too small. Like the reusable bag giveaway, anything that starts us away from the things that are befouling our God's creation is a step forward. And then awakening our brothers and sisters. That's, you know, whether they be in a fraternity, our parish, our diocese, probably most of the people in this room are doing stuff in their parishes. You know, maybe doing something at the diocesan level. Just, you know, start talking to people about, can we start it? You know, I don't know if the Archdiocese of Cincinnati, for example,
They have a
has,
task force.
yeah. So that's good, and keep that going. And of course, Mary talked about the next generation, which is so critical. Thanks. I was thinking, I don't know if we have time, I don't think we have time to do this, if we had started on time.
Yeah.
We would have had breakout sessions and, you know, because people learn by doing. And before, you know, when, Joe sent out the stuff for our meeting today, one of the things was a guide. And it's the guide my, diocese uses, and it just helps you go step by step, just like those slides. To, you know, to have a listening session. So do we have,
Oh, I only brought 3.
yeah, okay. So, this is what it looks like. Let me put
A
this
lot of
down.
us printed them off.
I'm
and
sorry?
brought- A lot of us printed them off. and
Yeah,
brought-
yeah, and it looks like this, and it takes you to the 7 goals we just saw. It gives you examples, it helps you to go through the listening session of what are we doing now, what can we build on, what can we do more, and so on. So, you know, it's like I said, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have here a step-by-step cookbook of, you know, exactly how to start a program in your fraternity, in your parish.
Does anyone need one today? Okay, great.
Okay, so.
That's why I brought a few extra. But they're also on the diocese website for
And I can send them, well, you just open me, just print out the one.
for the Diocese of Lexington.
And here's one.
And they're in your email.
Anybody wants to. You know. Anybody else need? All right, and then, so this is our action plan in our fraternity. As you see, it's not huge. Like what, 3 pages? And some of that's half a page is the signature. The signature. And you know, because they had a form on the website that the Lexington Diocese website for how to, you know, do the action plan. So, you know.
Do you just want to highlight a few of the things that your fraternity is doing? Yeah.
All right, but we first asked for a mission statement. And we said, creation is God's first revelation of himself to us. God is present in every particle of his creation, and he instituted its inspiring interrelationships and the delicate balance of its wholeness. As part of his creation, in respecting his creation, we respect ourselves. By caring for his creation, we enter into right relationship with God and the dynamic of his love. And then in the cry of the earth, I think it was in the newsletter, one of the members, well, one of the parishes that our members belong to is St. Leo's in their settings. And a carpenter here made seed box. Kind of like, well, you may have seen a picture in my newsletter. And it had little cubby holes and a door with glass in it. It was beautiful. And we encouraged our parishes of St. Leo's and Mary Queen to exchange seeds, you know, bring some seeds to share with others and take some seeds away from that. So we did that kind of during the growing season. We're gonna bring it out again for fall for bulbs. So, you know, that's a way, again, not only to to get people thinking, being inspired to hear from creation, but working together. And we also, so that was our cry of the earth thing, was the seed box, sharing. And then, response to the cry of the poor, we wanted to partner with Glean, Kentucky, to see what we could do together. And we met with them, but again, this, we're not exactly sure how to use that resource, so that's one of the things we'll have to reconsider. Let's see, ecological economics was the reusable bags, that initiative. Adoption of sustainable lifestyles, avoid single-use plastic, reduce plastic use. So like, for example, we had a big gathering, June 1, at one of our members' houses, and to invite not only fraternity members, but people who were interested in Franciscan spirituality. And we also, as part of it, had a baby shower for a group at my parish called Walking with Moms in Need. And these are moms in need of Christmas, seeking an abortion, they didn't get help. So we had a baby shower for them at this thing. But at that gathering, we didn't use any throwaway cups. All, real plates, real glasses, real cups. And so that's one of our commitments.
I guess in our fraternity, we could do that too, as far as encouraging people more to shop with reusable bags. We could say baseline and find out how many people are shopping with reusable bags and how many reusable bags they use each week and compared to how many plastic or paper bags they use and see if it improves that.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, to me, the hardest place is when I go to Kroger. Because it's just set up for you to use those plastic.
Yeah.
If you self-check out,
Yeah.
you have to either skip bagging, you have to keep punching that, or you have to put your bags on that weighted thing, and it's very suspicious of you.
Yeah.
to do that. So, I mean, the ladies and young men who oversee it, they know me, so they know I'm not trying to steal food or something. But anyway, it's a little awkward. Now, I also go to Good Foods, and there, it's real easy to use my reusable.
So Beth, I'm just kind of curious if you could share maybe with the group, how much did your fraternity spend on the reusable bags that it donated to the parish? And if you just talk a little bit about that, and what impact do you think you had on the parish as a whole?
We spent $250 on the bags. We also had, I'm not sure how much, I wasn't the one who purchased the stamp that had our logo. I want to say it was $25 back. I don't remember for sure. So that, there was an investment, but I think it was worthwhile. Trying to think any other things. Oh, the carpenter who made the seed exchange boxes, he made 2 of them, and they're just so beautiful. He donated that in memory of his son. I don't know how his son had died, but that was a beautiful element of it too. And it was just so gorgeous. You couldn't believe how substantial. So we didn't spend anything on that, other than I did go out and try to get the thing going by buying some seeds. And so did other members of the fraternity. We sort of seeded the seed. Okay, let's see what else. Ecological education. We during the season of creation from September 1 to October 4, we read and discussed Laudato Si. That is personal education. Ecological spirituality. We included prayers in our monthly meeting for the spread of caring for creation. And you know, we have to not step on the toes of the parish commission, you know, because if your parish already has a commission, you want to make sure you don't take initiatives away from them. So that's, you know, sort of a little politeness thing. That's, you know, that's why we didn't ask for a homily or prayers of the faithful, because we felt that was more a thing for the parish. And finally, community resilience and empowerment. We did meet with Seedly, and again, that's proving more difficult than we had hoped to get a project going. All right, so I think this last slide would have been, you know, it's kind of a summary. I'll go over it. You know, and I have to adapt it because we're not going to have breakout sessions, but you know, have a team appointed in your fraternity if you decide to do this, but also have everyone at a listening session, you know, and make sure that they feel comfortable to share ideas and no one's ideas don't. And then vote on what you want to do and put in your plan. And then each year, you know, reassess and renew your plans. Any questions?
Well, I would just suggest that, like, you know, I know Marvin, your group has some things that it's doing. Whether it's a formal plan or not, just to specify, maybe share those things with Beth. So any fraternity that is doing something, you know, we ought to have a central place to put it. And so I would say send it to Beth. That way she can kind of organize and know what each fraternity is doing. The other thing I was just going to say is that, you know, even as a regional council, I think one thing that I'm proud of that we did like 6 years ago, we just decided to be more green when we have these gatherings. So you know, we used to have paper plates and utensils and bottles of individual water, and you know, one thing that's a little bit of a hassle and cost. But the other thing is, if everyone kind of takes individual responsibility, I felt like there's a lot of food going to waste when we come together and share. There's just no way to predict, you know, how many people are going to be here. This room could have been 35 people. Instead, it's the group that we have, but you know, there's just no way to plan. I get text. I was in an art class last night. I got a text from a minister who said, well, we're having our meeting today. We're actually meeting about Laudato Si things and what to implement in their fraternity. And so good, keep us apprised. But, you know, they're just last minute things and communication things. So, you know, since then, we've done our own, you know, water vessels. We've, you know, tried to use, you know, plates and things that we could reuse. Just in my own fraternity, we've been better about coffee mugs. I bring those every month. I take them back home, run them through the dishwasher. You know, we do a lot of shareable things, but we still have room to improve. We still use paper, you know, products that I think we can kind of get rid of. So there's always continual things that I think we can start small, add, you know, over time and get better. So just
That's nice that you do that with the ministry.
yeah, that's it. And there are events that come up. I broke my collarbone about 8 weeks ago, and it was a little hard, you know, to carry things, but people will help you out, you know, when there's little issues that happen. So, you know, I think I just bring that up because there's always issues, right? But there's always kind of a way in our groups to kind of come around that and kind of figure out, well, what do we do to make things better? And, you know, just a little planning, it's not that hard. Yeah.
Any questions? I think that we are done.
Okay.